The Four Magazine, Detroit, baby, we out here. You see what's going on, we activated, we ain't playing no games.
Without further ado, back with another one, another episode of Foreign Magazine, interviews with the Foreign Magazine. Today we got a very special guest. We got the student minister of Muhammad Mosque, #1, where the Nation of Islam originated in Detroit, Michigan. Student Minister Troy, how you doing, brother?
Doing fine, praise be to Allah, and I'm thankful to you, Brother Gerard, for allowing me to be on this beautiful platform that you've put together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule, brother. I see you moving, working on behalf of Black people in America, and I definitely felt that it was needed, especially with the state that Detroit is in right now and Black America in general. So I definitely had to have you on the platform, so thanks again. Let's get straight to it, man. If you can, I want to talk a little bit about, like, your introduction into, the Nation of Islam. How did you find Islam? And, just briefly about, like, just some of the struggles leading up to that decision to become a Muslim.
Okay, well, the main difficulty was that I was sent to prison, right? I was sent to prison 17 years old, man. I didn't come from a religious family, but a morally high family where they didn't go to church. They had good moral character. And I ended up in prison in the neighborhood doing the things that I wasn't supposed to do, like many others. And, you get to prison, and that's when you kind of find yourself, because it's the first time in your life where you almost completely alone, right? And you're forced to look at yourself, and you're forced to try to get understanding of, okay, well, how did I end up here? Why am I here? How do I get out of here? But all of it takes you back to yourself. And it's during this time that I'm studying myself, learning about myself. My girlfriend at the time, she went to college as I was going to prison. So the first thing she sent me was a book it was about Booker T. Washington, called Up from Slavery. It talked about how he was a slave, but, eventually he established Tuskegee Institute. That inspired me to say, man, if he could come through slavery and accomplish, it has to be something more for me. I can overcome this. During the same time, I was able to see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on the Donahue Show. And on that show, I saw a man who, he had power in his word. An audience was against him, but his words were so strong that he was able to sit that audience down and even turn some of them to his side. And I'd never seen anybody like that. I came from a culture somewhat where the power was in who was the biggest or who was the strongest, who had the most guns, these types of things. So to see a man who wielded power with his words was intriguing to me. So, I checked out the service, and I went to the service at the prison, and I haven't turned back ever since.
Yes, sir.
It was a blessing for me.
Yeah.
It helped me reform myself, get myself together, and it even helped me in exiting prison.
You know what? And I'm glad that you paused at that moment, because I kind of want to go into the conversation of what is considered real Islam. And then there's also a saying where you have Prislam versus Islam. For those who may not know, Prislam is described as the group of people that becomes Muslim in prison, only to come home and live the lives that they lived previously too, or they didn't necessarily take Islam serious in prison. It was just a fad. It was just something to do.
But that's pressure. That's what pressure does to all human beings, prison or not. You know what I mean? People go through certain things and then they search for answers. So you have people who become Christians in prison, because of the pressure of the prison. So they're looking for something to strengthen them, to give them some strength to get through that moment. The same thing with Islam. You know what I mean? So we can't just box the religion of Islam in that space. It happens in Christianity. It happens when we're out here in the streets. Somebody dies and you automatically become religious. You know what I mean? You're going through some painful experience. You automatically become religious. You know, I get a text from somebody, can you pray for me right now? You know, this type of thing. So that's the pressure that comes with life that make us grab hold to something in that moment. Now, the beauty is when a person can keep hold, you know, when they realize they need help outside of themselves and they carry that with them. I'm so thankful that I was blessed to keep what I found and carry it with me on this side because, you know, I've had a life or been blessed with so much since accepting that truth that I found in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, you mentioned the difference in Islamic thought. Again, it's the same difference you find in Christianity. You have Baptists, you have Methodists, you have Jehovah's Witness, you have Catholics. These are all different branches of Christianity. We're not fighting, shooting, and killing each other based upon your understanding. You know, so in the Nation of Islam, you have different branches. You have the Nation of Islam. You have what they call Orthodox Islam, which you see Arabs practicing. And a lot of our young men and women are going into this aspect too. You have more Science Temple of America. That's a branch of Islam. No one has the authority to place one over the other. Islam, the word means total submission to the will of Allah or the will of God, you know, and wherever you're at when you find it, you know, I would say question anybody who says my way is the only way. If you come across a person who says my way is the only way, get away from that person because that's a person who isn't well traveled. They're not well studied. Their mind isn't open to see the position of other people. You know, so those people are sick. But I remember hearing it said that God comes to a homeless man in the form of shelter. God comes to a hungry man in the form of food. So God, Allah, is whatever you need him to be when you need it. You know what I mean? So people grab hold to religion based upon where they're at in life. So it's not for me to say my way is the right way and the only way. And that's the problem. So you have religious people fighting one another that they call religious gang banging. Mine is better than yours. Or this is the way God wants it. Who are you to say it?
Yeah. So my question is, what makes, from your vantage point, being a student minister, right? What makes the Nation of Islam different and special in its own way?
Well, we're taught that the Nation of Islam is a teaching that was designed specifically for the black man and woman of America, based upon the condition that we were and are in. You know, it addresses some of the issues that were placed upon us during slavery. The issue of being taught about a mystery God in the sky. You know, the slave master told the slave, be good, turn the other cheek, do what I tell you to do. And after you die, you'll go on the cloud and you'll meet God. Well, that was at a time where planes didn't exist and we couldn't find out where God was at. You know what I mean? So in that aspect, the slave master took God out of the grasp of our people. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that God is man and man is God. Not that the man is to be worshipped, but that the presence of God is in all of us. So Jesus said, if you want to go to a Bible, you won't be able to say, here it is or there it is, for the kingdom of God is within. Paul said in the Bible, know ye not that ye are the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? So the teachers of the Nation of Islam focuses on that in one aspect. That, man, when I look at a black man, I look at a black woman, I'm looking at God. If we take on that mindset, then we begin to treat one another better. You know, we begin to love one another better. You know, we begin to act better towards one another because I see his presence in you and you see his presence in me. So in the Nation of Islam, You don't see some of the violence that you see outside the Nation of Islam. You don't see some of the havoc that you see outside of the Nation of Islam. You don't see some of the disrespect that you see outside, right? Because we're in a nation now with rules and laws that we follow, and that we place them on each other. It's not unjustly. It's done with love. You know what I mean? And if I see you as my brother, man, I can't hit you. If I see you as my sister, I can't beat or rape a woman that looks like you. So it helps change the mindset that we've been given by America.
Yeah. So like, I want to ask too, you know, as I always see, you know, the brothers always clean, suited and booted to the T, you know, appearance is right, you know, in terms of the connect with the youth and the people, how have you been able to like keep that connection? You know, a lot of people, you know, wear street clothes, wear regular clothes. They may, you know, you hear a lot of jokes. Oh man, you brothers with the bow ties, salam alaikum, you know, all of that. Like, how do y'all stay connected to the people?
We are the people, brother. We just the people with a suit on, right? You know, I wear polo, I got Gucci shoes, I got some of those things that you all wear, and you may see me in some of this stuff sometime. But, you know, we're taught in the Nation of Islam, you dress business, because our people is business, man. It's serious business, man. And you have to, when you go to them, you're wearing a suit out of respect to them. It doesn't matter what they have on, but you're showing them. It ain't like I'm getting dressed up to go do an interview with some white guy. I'm going to see my people, man. So I'm going to put my best foot forward. So when I come in their presence, I'm showing them respect and gratitude. The same way you go to a church and you put on a suit and a nice shirt, we coming to see you with the suit and a nice shirt on, because we see you as the temple of God. You know, the most beautiful of God's creations is the black man and black woman.
Man. So I want to ask a couple questions about Minister Farrakhan, right? With you being a student minister under the Honorable, I should say, I said Minister Farrakhan, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, have you ever met him before? And if so, like, what was the encounter like? You know, I guess I want to ask, is the hype real?
Man, of course. I couldn't be his representative if I didn't meet him, or I've been blessed to spend time with him. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the most beautiful human being I've ever met. And you know me, man, I'm not no crazy brother. I ain't no religious nut or anything like that, man. But I've never come across a human being with the love that he has for our people, with the care and concern that he has for our people, who has dedicated his life to trying to give us a word of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that'll lift us up, never asking anything in return. You know, the minister came, he repurchased the mosque in Chicago. He repurchased the Salam restaurant. He repurchased hundreds of acres or thousands of acres of farmland. You know, he called the Million Man March. These are, and over 2 million men showed up. These are things to show us what we could do if we would tap in. He never says where I'm at, you can't be. He never said that I'm one that you should worship. He's asking you to stand up and be and do what you see him being and doing, which is a strong black man who's connected to God, and the presence of God is coming across in him. And that's the teaching of the Nation of Islam, that, man, if you tap into God for real, brother, for real, sister, it ain't nothing outside of you. But he brings forth a power in each of you so that you can overcome any difficulty that you're following, any struggle that you might be faced with. You know what I mean? So, you know, when you see him, that's what it is, man. He is who we say he is. I've never seen him other than what you see, you know, and I've been around hundreds of pastors, man, and hundreds of leaders in this country. And I can tell you that many of them, I can't speak on all of them, but many of them, they're not the same guy that you see giving the lecture. You know what I mean? And, you know, we all have imperfections. Don't get me wrong. But the minister, man, I've never seen him out of character at any time, brother. Even when he tells jokes, you know what I mean? It's knowledge tied to him. You know, I remember we stayed up till 2 in the morning, man, and he was talking to us. He was going to visit Kwame Kilpatrick while Kwame was in prison here. And man, we stayed up laughing and talking, but never did he not stay on a course of knowledge or upliftment in his language, man. When we are blessed to sit at the dinner table with him, it's always an exchange of knowledge, and he's asking us to do and be better, you know. And the first question he asks whenever I'm blessed to hear from him on the phone is, how are our people, you know? Can you give them the greeting? And, you know, most people, when I see them, they ask me to give the greeting to him. And when I do, he smiles. So he's just a phenomenal human being. I've never seen anyone like him or come across anyone like him. And I'm talking like, you know, when you have the love you have for your mother, your grandmother, beautiful. But he's like, my God, brother, my mother, I'll tell a quick story, man. You know, my mother, drug addicted for 30 years, brother. And I remember the minister asked me, you know, he said, how is your mom doing? He asked me specifically because her husband had just passed away. I said, brother minister, and I don't say brother out of disrespect. I said, it bothers me that my words can help other people, but they can't help my mom, you know. He said, leave your mother to me. He allowed me to bring up the whole funeral, all the attendees to the funeral, to the room. And we went, and I saw him talk to my mother for maybe 5 minutes on the side. The next day on Facebook, she posted, I feel like I met Jesus, right?
Wow.
From that time, she never used crack cocaine again. And it's been almost 8 years, brother.
Oh, man.
Now, I'm saying stuff that you can go and research. And I'm not going to put my family business out just to get somebody to like it or something. But I'm telling you the truth, man. So it's just his way, man. You know, we have been talking to her all our lives. But it took 5 minutes for him to say a word to change her.
Yeah.
And that's how he is.
What is the importance of leadership? You know, sometimes the conversation is, you know, man, those brothers is robots following behind the minister, right? But in life, you know, you got to have leadership, you know what I mean, with everything. So I guess my question is, what is the importance of leadership in the Black community and the importance of the leader being, you know, working on themselves enough to be a vessel that people can follow? Because I'm to the belief that if it was more leadership and more Black people that were willing to follow somebody, then the communities would be a little better.
Well, you're a leader. You know what I mean? And what you're doing here with the Forum magazine, you're leading the way. You know, my daughter just came here and she was able to talk to you and get insight on how you're doing this venue that you've set up, right? So leadership comes in different forms, right? And you have to find that one that works with you. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a great leader in our community, and he leads by an example. And he has produced men all over the country and women all over the country that are trying to follow his lead to lead others. Yeah. So in the city of Detroit, we have a congregation of over 300 consistently, but our roles are maybe more in the 5,000 area. You know, you have brothers like Zeke, New Era, you have Negus Vu, you have, you know, different brothers throughout the city doing some great things who are leading based upon the work that they're doing. But you also have fathers, and you have mothers, and you have business owners. We have, you know, when you look at our hip hop community in Detroit, it's not just the artists, but you have people next to the artists, helping the artists, supporting the artists. And in our community, it's mostly young Black people. You know, I think of Chanel, and I think of people like this who are leading the way and showing an example for others. So, it's the leadership that you find that works with you. But I don't think that we should be critical of who you decide to follow, right? Because it's based upon who you are at that moment. It was a time in Detroit, and I might be telling my age, dudes used to dress like Prince, man. Michael Jackson. That was a crazy period, brother. But that, they're looking to find themselves, right? The minister once said when Malcolm X was in the Nation of Islam, he imitated Malcolm X. When Malcolm X departed, he began imitating the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed, Minister Farrakhan said, that's when I was forced to find myself. Right? So all of us find lead from somewhere. And that lead helps us to get to another level so that we can find ourselves. And then we can begin to lead in our way.
I want to kind of go on, not trying to be funny or nothing, but when you mentioned that Prince and Michael Jackson thing, Prince used to wear like heels, if I ain't mistaken. And
well, go look at the new dance show and the scene, brother. These brothers used to wear heels and everything. They used to be right down across the street from here at Northland. They would walk through, brother, and these are teenage black people. They would love these guys, man. You go interview R.J. Watkins right now. He was the one who was, he was the producer of that show. But they were stars in the community. Then Run DMC came through. Then the brothers, they was wearing Adidas suit.
So that switched up a lot, right? In that era.
That did change a lot.
Yeah.
When hip hop really hit the scene like that. Because before Run DMC, if you go back to Melly Mel, them guys used to wear capes and horns and crazy rock and roll boots
like
and stuff like that.
Like on a funkadelic type
yeah,
tip.
You know what I mean? So Run DMC kind of changed the game when they came in with the jeans, the Adidas, you know what I mean? And that changed our game, right? And it became a bit more man-like. But that androgynous piece was, with the Princes, the Michael Jacksons, that was an off-the-chain period, brother.
For sure. Detroit, being that the Nation of Islam was founded in Detroit, right? And we was briefly talking a little bit about the history in Detroit. When you look at the city as a traveled man, we was just chopping it up. You just came from out of town, and you was talking about the culture, the food, and what makes Detroit so unique. As a traveled man, like, what is it so special about Detroit from a cultural standpoint, and then from a spiritual standpoint as well, that the founder of the Nation of Islam, who goes by the name of Master Fard Muhammad, came here to establish the Nation of Islam for black people in America?
Well, over the years, you just get to understand that Detroit is a special group of people, man. There's no people on the planet like those who are from Detroit. I think that we're culturally diverse because you have, you got Southwest, you got, white people, you got black people. It's just a good combination. Sometimes you don't see that combination until you go to maybe a sporting event or something like that, or you got different events going on downtown at the same time where you might have a hip hop concert, the Tigers game, and and then when these people come together, you see it ain't no beefs or no problems or anything like that. Detroit is just that. So, of course, Master Fard Muhammad came to Detroit to establish the Nation of Islam. I've heard it said that it was a certain type of person that he wanted. So Elijah Poole, who was Elijah Muhammad, who was from Sandersville, Georgia, he comes to Detroit, he gets involved in the auto industry. But I think it's a mindset that he had to have, right? I think Motown music coming out of Detroit is a very big thing. Dr. King doing his I Have a Dream speech here first. The Shrine of the Black Madonna. Detroit has a great and rich history, brother. That's valuable, and it's touching the entire world. You could go anywhere and see Motown or hear Motown. When you go to that museum that we have on the boulevard, you see people from all over the world. We don't pay too much attention.
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
drive past.
yeah.
But you'll see people from all over the world going there, all cultures, everybody going there to the Motown Museum. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan coming out so the Nation of Islam starts here. Here are some of the names out of the Nation of Islam: Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Louis Farrakhan. You know what I mean? So when you consider that started here, and those great men came out of something that started here, and then you could go to the 5% Nation. You can go to the Black Panther Party, who started out, their name was the Sons of Malcolm. So they were influenced. You know, and you go on and on and on. The current Black church, how Malcolm X influenced the current Black church to be more community active, because he would go stand outside of churches and talk about what they weren't doing, you know. So they became more community and politically active. So I mean, it's a big research that everybody should do when they think about Detroit and its value to the world, and that value isn't based upon the land that we're on, but it's based upon the people of this city.
100%, 100%.
Our leadership always been 90% Black. You know what I mean? We've held it down, brother. We've set tones that other cities haven't set. Our relationship with the police department, how we have governed that.
Yeah, it's not too much police brutality like
You
in
don't hear
Detroit.
about
You don't
that,
really
bro.
hear
No,
too much about that.
You know, based upon the relationship that the community forged, and based upon the leadership that we had. Coleman Young stopping stress units and things like that the white officers were doing, you know, and then they encouraging that Detroit police live in the city. You know, all of these things that took place during a certain time has trickled down, and now you have a great community police type relationship going on.
Yes, sir. So I kind of want your insight on maybe some solutions, economic wise, with Detroit. Knowing the history of Detroit, when we think about Black Bottom, and the businesses that permeated through that area before highways was, you know, built over that space. How do we get back to building Black businesses and spending with each other and just building that ecosystem financially, where we could, you know, where we can actually start empowering each other financially?
Well, I read an interesting quote that was explaining how Detroit has the most Black-owned businesses in the country. You know, in this area, they're smaller, but they're Black-owned, right? So I think now it's because the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, do for self or suffer the consequences, right? I went to an event recently, man. It was some young people like yourself. They had all this vending going on. It was all young Black people, man, doing their thing, you know, and it was a beautiful sight to see. So you can see us reaching for it. Now it's just, how do we put it all together? You know, I remember my brother, I think it's Tone. He had the Tony Island.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we got to figure out how to promote those things and support those things so that they become successful. Because if he was successful in that, then next you might have had Cash Down Beauty Supplies, you know what I mean? And start moving to some of the things that we spend money on daily. You know, we got to have toilet paper. You know, we got to have food, clothing, shelter, these things, right? And the clothing doesn't always have to be the most expensive clothing. But we should start focusing on some of these things that people will always need to sustain themselves. Because if money gets tight, you'll sacrifice the expensive jacket or shoes or something like that. If money gets tight, you'll sacrifice the newer car, the jewelry, you know, but you gotta have food. So we should have some land. You gotta have clothing, you gotta have shelter. So we should invest in property.
Yeah.
But it has to be wise investment. So I think, you know, putting these entities together, you know, and us kind of having more business meetings would be a start to that. But the businesses are present. some of them aren't brick and mortar. Of course, we want brick and mortar, but with the internet going how it's going, brick and mortar isn't the same dollar. So we have to sit down with some professionals that are doing it and really get insight on how we can make this thing happen.
Yeah.
I was having a meeting in Dearborn with the mayor of Dearborn, who's Arab American, and Minister Ishmael Muhammad, who was the national assistant to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He was with us, and he asked the mayor, how do you all do this? He said, I don't want you to show me. I want you to just tell me exactly how you do it. And he explained one situation where they have a phone call and they invite all the serious parties to the call. And they say, hey, we're opening up a business on Michigan Avenue and, say Gully or something like that. This is what the business entails. This is what the profit margin looks like. And we're looking for investors. And they jump in like that. And they move from space to space with that same group, and they do it like that. Now, one of our problems, we don't have the long-term investment money. But he explained that some of these people that are on the line are just hard worker, they're working jobs and they're just making a sacrifice. Some of them are developed businessmen. But, we have to find programs and put together things like this with trustworthy people so we can make it happen.
Yeah.
When you get somebody who's distrustful when something happens wrong, it stops the momentum.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good information. I think people can benefit from that tremendously. Speaking of mayor, right now we know that position is being ran for Mary Sheffield. She, from my vantage point, everybody love Mary, man. I just kind of want to get your perspective on politics, specifically the politics in Detroit. Mayor, what is it? Senate, is it U.S. Senate or because we just had Chief James Harris in, I forget it.
For council.
Council, right? Speak on the politics in Detroit, if you can.
Well, I'll start by quoting the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, combining that with your last question. He said, politics without economics is symbol without substance. So if we don't build up our business community to support our politicians, other people will come in and support them, and then they'll be beholden to those who gave monies, right? Mary Sheffield, I've known her for a long time, man. Her family have been servants in this community for a long time. I think Mary Sheffield in this race is the most qualified candidate. I think she's always been on the ground. So it's not, what you're seeing from her now isn't something she's just popping up and doing just to get a vote. She's always been present. She's a great sister. She's been a great sister and friend to me. I think that, if she can make the decisions and put the right people around her, because it's not just the mayor who makes the decisions. They have to be humble enough and wise enough to get the right people around them to help them make some of the better decisions. I think she can do that, and I support her. With that said, I'm not against, Pastor Kinlock. I think that he's a great brother. He's been doing some great things in the community as well. I don't think we lose with either. But in my opinion, I really believe that Mary is most qualified at this point.
Yeah. So I want to go into the now, the things that the Nation of Islam have going on. I know recently we made a post of you guys doing a Saviors tour, and brothers was in the community talking to the elders, the youth. But it was, to my surprise, honestly, that it was a little pushback in the comment section of people saying, oh, man, those brothers ain't making no change, or, walking down the street, just a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you pay attention to comment sections like that. You don't strike me as a brother that's really just locked in on looking at what people say about, the Nation of Islam. But from your vantage point with that level of criticism, speak on that and then speak on what you guys are actively doing, plan on doing going forward for the rest of the year.
Okay. So the first question I would ask is, what are you doing, right? For you to have a finger to point at somebody else and say what they're not doing or the effects that they're not having. That's a strange place to be in for a person, to just sit back behind a screen and text foolishness, bro. Or whoever would have the time to sit behind a screen and text some foolishness like that, judging somebody based upon their thought. Now, the brothers who came in on that Saviors tour are from different parts of the country. So even though a lot of them were from here, most of them are from a different part of the country. And their decision was just to go around and put some love in the community. You know what I mean? Not asking for nothing, just encouraging the people that they came across. So I think that's an effort in itself, to have somebody come up to you and say, hey, man, we can get through this. You know what I mean? How you doing, black man? You know what I mean? Lift your head up, that type of thing. So I think that's a special thing. I think just recently we did this in the city of Detroit. A lot of the CVI groups got on a bus, just like the Saviors Tour, and they went around from area to area to talk about peace. You know what I mean? Helping somebody in the community only goes so far as the person who you're talking to deciding to help themselves, right? So everybody, the responsibility is to help yourself. You know what I mean? Nobody can help you. You can only help yourself. Now, a kind word could come in, or you can hear something like I heard Minister Farrakhan that made me want to change myself, but he couldn't change me. I had to change myself, right? So, I think that, to judge who's in the community, who's not, who's doing the work, who's not, and then, like you say, the suits and the bow ties. I mean, these guys, principals at the schools in this community, they work at the plants around this community. Some are on the police department in this community. Some are, they work at different stores throughout the community. They're business owners. You're just seeing them at that point in the suit and the bow tie. But you don't realize they live in the community, man. Bus drivers and truck drivers, and they're all over the place, man. And then, when you talk about who's doing the work and who's not doing the work, who are you to judge that, right? Okay, I'm walking down the street with a bullhorn, screaming out stuff. Is that the work? Could be to him or them. I'm out here with a bow tie on, talking to people. Is that the work? Could be to him. But are you ignoring the father that goes to work every day and takes care of his family? That's work. Are you ignoring the teacher in the school that comes to school every day to teach your children? That's the work. Are you ignoring the person who really fed up and ready to kill you? But they fight against that in their mind and say, okay, I'm going to be fine today. We all doing work, man. So don't try to put what you think the work is on this one or that one, man. You take care of yourselves, man, because man gets what his hands have wrought. Can't nobody get it for you but you. That's the bottom line, man. This is the route I've chosen. Now, I've been to prison. I've been shot 9 times. I've shot 2. Let me make that clear. And I went through my process of being in the street, in the hood, and all that stuff that you think is a badge, which don't mean a damn thing at the end of the day, man. But you go through these things, and the badge isn't that you went to prison, or the badge isn't that you was a shooter or that you got shot. The badge is that you overcame that. And we got a lot of overcomers in our community, man. Right? The Nation of Islam, what we do is self-improvement. Right? We give you the tools to improve yourself. I can't take claim for anybody in my mosque. You know what I mean? They improve themselves. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan isn't taking claim for anybody in the mosque. He just gives us material that we can use to improve ourselves. And that's in every aspect, man. You have to work on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was gonna say, like, from what I paid attention to and reading books and studying, what I have noticed and do understand specifically with the Nation of Islam as it pertains to the work is really attacking the current mindset of the people, you know?
But of yourself first, right?
Yes, sir.
You got to attack the mindset of yourself, right? You got to evict your old way of thinking so that you can approach life in a new way. And then you offer it to your brother, your sister. You got to evict laziness. You got to evict fear. You got to evict cowardice. You got to evict the thought that you're no good or that you can't measure up. No, you everything, man. You created in the image and likeness of God, so it's nothing that you can't do. So it's like fighting that lack of self-knowledge where somebody done damaged you and you take that. You know what I mean? You got some boyfriend who you ain't nothing. They beating on you. And now you got low self-esteem. Well, these teachings take that away, man. And say, no, you better than that. Right? And if you can have a better self-image, it makes for better for everything around you. That's how the Nation of Islam does. Outside of that, man, we visit prisons throughout the course of the year. We visit the juvenile facility.
Yeah. I was invited to one time.
Right. We visit the juvenile facilities. I marry people. I do funerals, brother. You know what I mean? We at the schools. We everywhere. The minister said you should be everywhere that Black people are going through something, man. And we don't ask. It's nobody, no politician in this city or this state that could say, Minister Troy asked. We always come to serve. There's nobody in the community that can say, Minister Troy asked. Always come to serve. You know, can you come speak here? Can I give you something? That's not what we're here for.
Yes, sir.
You understand what I'm saying? That's how the minister's raising us, man. And again, it don't make you bad because you're not with us. I'm fine with that. Find your space, though. You know, find what works for you so that we can get out of this thing together, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, man, it definitely was a great conversation, and definitely honored, for you to.
Man, I'm honored to be
man.
on your show, brother.
No, seriously, man, it's definitely an honor, brother. Appreciate you. Before we get out of here, let the people know if there's any announcements coming up, and let the people know where Muhammad Mosque #1 is, so if they want to visit, they'll be able to do so.
Man, come on down, Muhammad Mosque #1, 19160 Evergreen. That's a block north of 7 Mile. We're open come Sundays at 11 a.m. You know, you can find me there any Sunday. So come on out. If you want to check me out on Instagram, it's Troy Muhammad, Facebook, Troy Muhammad, TikTok, Troy Muhammad. Just look me up, man, and let's build. That's the bottom line, man. If we're not building, we deteriorate, man.
Yes, sir.
And we have enough deterioration in this city,
Sir.
as it is.
That's what it is. Student Minister Troy Muhammad, Reform Magazine, Pulse of the Culture. Let's get it.